Spanish famously has a pentavocalic system. That is to say, it only has 5-vowel qualities. And this distinguishes it from other Romance languages like Romanian and Italian, which have 7 each. Portuguese has 9. French has a staggering 15 to 16, depending on your interpretation of the vowel qualities there. But interestingly enough, Spanish isn't the only Romance language with a pentavocalic system. It turns out that Sicilian does too, as we indicated in a previous video. And today, I'm fortunate enough to have a special guest who can help us explore the intricacies of Sicilian vowels. Though Spanish and Sicilian both have a pentavocalic system, the vowel qualities aren't exactly the same. And so I thought, rather than trying to replicate them poorly myself, I would get a native Sicilian to help me out with that project. So would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. Nice to meet you to everyone. I'm Francesco Cipro, and in Sicilian is just Ciccio. I'm from Sicily, and from Trapani in the west of Sicily. And actually, I'm studying aerospace engineering in Padua in my master degree.
Excellent. And of course, you mentioned that you are from Trapani in the west of Sicily. And that's important because what we will see here is that even though Sicily has its own language, Sicilian, there's bound to be some degree of social and geographic variation. So what we'll also hear today is that some of Ciccio's vocabulary is slightly different from perhaps standard Sicilian. Sicily is a large island, and so we can only expect this kind of variation. But what I want to start with is a general question about how you use Sicilian. So how often do you hear Sicilian being spoken as opposed to Italian from where you are?
Always. Everywhere we use Sicilian, everywhere. We are very patriotic, actually, I have to say. And I think everywhere you go, you find someone that talks in Sicilian, like from ancient people and also young people. So that's the idea from Sicilian guy.
Okay. Interesting. Actually, I didn't know that. I was under the impression that standard Italian was sort of dominating everywhere, and that it had become almost the norm, and that younger people were not speaking Sicilian as much. So I'm actually interested to hear that. That's nice in a way, because it's beautiful to retain this kind of linguistic variation. What kind of contexts do you see Sicilian used? I mean, is it used still in school? I would assume not.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they don't teach us. So it's a fact of family.
Okay.
In our family, we're going to talk in Sicilian. But also, if you go in a market, supermarket, for instance, and you hear a lot of words in Sicilian. So I think that maybe in the future we need a subject at school.
Maybe the Scuola Siciliana should come back. Okay.
Of course.
Very interesting. Now, we're going to now talk about the relationship between standard Italian and Sicilian. So do you find, as a Sicilian, that the way you speak standard Italian at your courses at the university, for example, when you go to deal with bureaucracy, has your Sicilian influenced how you speak standard Italian?
Of course, especially in the vowels. The vowels are influenced a lot.
Okay.
Because sometimes I pronounce the word in Italian with the Sicilian accent. So that's the problem in the vowels.
Okay.
It's not actually a problem. I'm proud of Sicilian, but yeah, we have an influence on the Italian words also.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I would also like to learn how to speak Italian with a Sicilian accent. That would be a fun challenge. If you could describe Sicilian, the language, in one word, what would it be? Maybe a Sicilian word.
With a Sicilian word.
Maybe, try a Sicilian word.
I think meraviglia.
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 Yeah.
Beautiful. So that would be spelt with a G-H.
Double G.
Double G-H.
Meraviglia.
Meraviglia.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the interesting thing about that is that a lot of those words from Latin, they follow a process called pre-palatalization, where you almost roll the tongue along your palate. If you think about Spanish, maravilla, Italian, standard Italian, meraviglia, it's interesting that Sicilian has taken this meraviglia root. It would be interesting to actually explore that in another video. So what's your favorite word in Sicilian?
I think amoni.
Amoni.
Amoni means okay, we can go together. Amoni.
Amoni.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is written like AMUNI with the accent.
Amoni. Okay. What is the most famous Italian Sicilian dish?
I think it's an Arabian one. It's couscous.
Couscous,
Because of the
yeah.
Arabian influence.
Yeah.
And also Spanish, I think.
They-
Couscous.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
Although I think couscous is more
yeah.
purely from
Yeah, but also
Arabic, yeah.
okay. We have to say also arancina.
Arancina, yeah, arancina
Yeah,
is.
but be careful
very-
because it depends on the part of Sicily. Because it could be
Okay.
arancina or arancino. So it
Arancina,
depends.
arancino.
In my part is arancina.
Okay,
It's a wife.
arancina. It's a woman.
It's
yeah,
a woman.
okay.
It's a
female word. Okay. What's your favorite Sicilian food?
I think it is called graffa con la ricotta.
Graffa con la
It's a
ricotta.
dessert. Yeah.
Very nice.
So-
Okay, I'll put an image up and the writing here. Okay, very good. Thank you for the general introduction and the insight into Sicily. Going to the central point of this video, I'm trying to explore how Sicilian vowels differ from Spanish vowels, because Sicilian and Spanish are particularly interesting because they're some of the only Romance languages that only have 5 vowel qualities. French, Italian, Portuguese, they have more. Romanian has about 7, I think. So we'll start off by comparing these with looking at the vowels that are the same in Sicilian and Spanish, the vowel qualities that are the same. The very first vowel that is the same is I, which in Sicilian is pronounced exactly the same way. If you hear Ciccio say this word in Sicilian,
Macinari.
and
Macinari.
Macinari, and I would say millonario in Spanish, and the I sound is exactly the same in Spanish and standard Sicilian. If you've picked out a slight difference, perhaps, in how Ciccio has pronounced that I vowel, maybe comment down below and let us know, because it would be interesting to see if there's a variation between Trapani Siciliano
Yeah,
and
and other-
Catania Siciliano, for example, or Siciliano from Messina or something like that.
Yeah, I think that if I can, yeah, I think that in Trapani we are more like macinari. In Catania is like macinari. We have a change in the consonant in the C
Interesting. Okay, so
that is before the vowel.
and then that usually does change vowel quality as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. So thank you for that insight. Then the open central a sound in Spanish is the same as in Sicilian. So if Ciccio says,
Abbuffuniare, abbuffuniare.
and I would say alabanza in Spanish, and you can see that those are the same vowel quality. The next identical vowel quality is the U, the closed back vowel. U in Sicilian you would say
Like sacuddo.
sacudo,
Sacudo.
and I would say bulleria, the flamenco genre. And so much for those. So a, I, U, more or less identical Spanish and Sicilian, certainly in standard Spanish and Sicilian. The big difference comes in how Spanish and Sicilian pronounce the e and the o. Spanish tends to close these vowels a little bit more. So for example, if we start out with the mid-fronted e sound, in Spanish, I would say temer, with an ever so slight closing of the tongue. So if you imagine that the tongue, when I say temer in Spanish, lifts up ever so slightly, whereas in Sicilian, it would be more flat, closer to the bottom of the mouth, more open in a sense. And you would say, for example,
Like tenebra.
notice that difference, tenebra as opposed to temer. I hope that I was able to replicate it, but you could listen back to how he gave you an authentic example there. The other vowel that's more closed in Spanish is the closed mid o, as opposed to the Sicilian more open mid o sound. So maybe in case I didn't do that right, I will say the Spanish word dolor, and you'll notice that if you repeat that as a viewer, your tongue again will be held in a relatively closed position, closer to the palate. Whereas if you were to say
Like doggia.
in Sicilian, you would have definitely heard that his tongue would have been kept in a more open position. And so this is the chief distinction between Sicilian and Spanish vowel qualities. Of course, this only answers part of the question, and what we even introduced in this interview was that the way Sicilian is spoken is going to change across the islands. There are other Sicilian friends that we have that clearly have ever so slight differences in intonation, in consonant qualities, and so these sort of things always affect the vowels. But I'm very, very grateful to have had the assistance of Ciccio here, who is a proper Sicilian speaker and could give us an insight in this channel to the beautiful language of La Repubblica Tricliniana, no?
Yeah, Repubblica Tricliniana.
Sì. And was it ever a Repubblica? Was it the Repubblica Tricliniana or il Regno Tricliniano?
I think Regno delle Due Sicilie.
Obviously, there was Regno delle Due
think,
Sicilie.
yeah.
Sì. And maybe one of the interesting things before we finish, of course, is that Sicilian is vital to the formation of modern Italian. Many of you may know this, of course, but Dante, who was considered pretty much the father of modern standard Italian, he borrowed a lot of his style and a lot of his poetic philosophy from the famous Scuola Siciliana that flourished.
Of course, in Palermo.
In Palermo.
Yeah, with the King Federico II.
Federico II, yeah.
That's, yeah.
So, yeah, we've had contact with the roots of the Italian language here as well. So we will thank you very much. From my side, I'll say gracias, and you would say in Sicilian?
Grazie.
Grazie, okay, grazie, like standard Italian. And we will see you in the next video. Grazie, Ciccio.
Thank you.